What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the show. Today is going to be a big one because a lot has happened in the market over the past week or so. We had a massive pump across many altcoins. ETH ecosystem went absolutely crazy. But over the past 24 hours, we have seen a little bit of a pullback in the market. So today, we're going to discuss whether this is a dip, maybe that you should look at buying. We're also going to talk about the big rotation that both me and Paradise, who's joined us today, think is probably going to occur, or at least starting to see the signs of it start to crop up. So I think there is a big money-making opportunity there. And I'm also going to keep you up to date with what I've been doing over the last couple of days. So it's going to be a big show, hopefully prep you for the rest of the week. This is, I would say, a marathon, not a sprint. Like, I do think this cycle has a bit of juice left in it from a macro perspective. I don't think we have reached a cycle top yet on ETH or Bitcoin, but this is one of those periods where, the market has obviously aggressively run up and is now consolidating a little bit. So we're going to see these periods, I think, in the lead up to our eventual cycle top, where you have these cooldowns. These naturally become opportunities to position in the right coins if you know what to look for. And hopefully today's video helps you do that. And then, hopefully you can come out the other side better off for it. But Paradise, welcome to the show. How are you feeling after? Did you have a relaxing weekend or can't get off the charts?
Really. Same answer as last week. Still underslept and slightly more valued, not so undervalued. So feeling all right. Yeah, just tired, but
a little bit better.
Yeah, for sure. It's been a good week. It's been a good week in the group. Good week for me personally. So pretty happy.
Yeah, I actually had my best trading week. I have this net worth tracker that I set up on Claude, and it sent me a notification saying that I had my largest 1 week net worth increase in like the past 6 months or something. So that was nice. That was nice to see because it's been it was down only before that for the prior few months. So it was good to have a little bit of relief. But I want to talk about how I actually achieved that last week and go through some of my trade updates, because I've been very active in the Discord, very active in the Telegram as well, but didn't do a YouTube video yesterday. I wanted to, but I got held up with something. So just to give you guys a bit of an update, you can see here on the 18th of July, which I believe was, I think, last Friday or Saturday, I was in a heavy pump position and we saw a little bit of a relief rally happening on pump. I also talked about this on the Sunday live stream here on the channel. And I decided to actually switch my pump positions into the ETH betas. So that was ENA, as you can see here, EIGEN layer, and ETHFI. This actually ended up being a portfolio saving move. I didn't know it at the time. I did say that the reason I was doing it was just to be mindful of opportunity costs, with ETH looking strong and pump looking weak. But it ended up actually being kind of genius, because pump just absolutely I don't know how to say it, died. Went to like 0.0034 at one point. I think it's up to 3.7 now, which is below its IDO price. And meanwhile, subsequently, you had Athena running up to 0.55. You had EIGEN pumping, and you had ETHFI. We're also going to chart them later, doing really, really well. So my prophecy kind of came true here. ETH beta's really running over the past few days, and then some of the other coins in the market like Bonk and Pump starting to slow down a little bit. So this one trade actually saved me a lot of money, about a 50% spread, because pump was down 30 and then these were up 20. So if you add the spread, it's 50%, which is a massive, massive move, especially if you're trading with decent portfolio size like I was on these trades. So just to give you guys an update what I'm doing now, leading on from these posts and leading on from the Sunday live stream, I actually TP'd a lot last night, Sunday night, and also Monday morning on some of the ETH betas. And I also trimmed some of my portfolio in general heading into Monday, anticipating that we would consolidate for a little bit. And that's exactly what's happening today. You can see some of the altcoins are down, ETH's consolidating. You can see in the Discord, I said, I don't know exactly where the update is. I posted a lot of stuff. I sent a Sunday update in a voice message saying, don't have many thoughts to add, TP'd a few of my positions. Last week was crazy, trying to catch my breath a bit rather than trying to force another trade. So I think that's good advice for people, because I think a lot of people try and force a new trade and a new trade and a new trade like every single day in the market. But if you've had a really prolific week like I did with 50 trades and you've made money, why not just, take a step back, reassess the market? That's something we're going to do live for you guys today here with Paradise, see where things are sitting and start to plan our next moves, rather than trying to force things, because there's that temptation to roll the profits that I made into like another trade and into another trade. But I took Monday really chill. I'm taking Tuesday chill, and I'm just assessing our options, and we're going to do that today. That's one of the goals for this video here, to look at what the next rotation could be, because now I've got some stables back through TPing. I want to look at, where to potentially deploy that in the market. So yeah, Paradise, that's the update on my trading side. What did you make of all that rotation that happened over the weekend?
It's what we're discussing last week. Oh, you're not sharing my screen. My bad. Yeah, I was just watching. Cool. What we were discussing last week was I've just been, watching this furiously every day, just refreshing, going back to the chart, just looking for this rotation between on the Sol ETH chart. When we did the last stream, we were down here somewhere. Started to see some low time frame divergences. I think that was last Thursday. And now we're like currently testing that level. And obviously we've seen that outlier pump on Sol. It had a really clean breakout. So yesterday was compressing into this level here. You can see historically this has been like a very strong pivot level above and below. We finally got that pop through, and so I was positioning a lot into Sol stuff when we were pressing into this level, and also when we started to form those divergences on the Sol ETH chart. Just because I think once we flip this level, get back above, there's pretty much a deviation here, and I think this can start to mark up as ETH cools off. So I've been focused mostly on the memes, just because of how the rotation's gone in the past. Obviously, memes on Sol lead, you get on-chain season heating up. Then you start to see the rotation into AI agents. So I've just been accumulating bags on those slowly, but not full stack yet. I am still waiting for some sort of flush in the market to fill stuff. But as of today, I've been setting limits on stuff that I'm interested in. And it's pretty much just, the Hail Mary play for me right now. I caught a bunch of stuff on ETH. I sold some ETH at where are we? Up at this
ETH
POV.
ran up into it ran up into this like 4K resistance, and like for me it makes sense for this to just like chill out for a little bit. There was a lot of positive news that it ran on, so a lot of not only legislative news but also in terms of the stablecoin stuff, in terms of SBET accumulating more ETH. There was like a really strong like news push last week. So when price rallies into like positive news and then starts to cool off, for me that's a sign that maybe we're just going to consolidate for a little bit here before going on the next leg.
I agree, and we have to look at this as a sticky point, right? Like
it's quite significant.
This 4K level has been a very hard level to get past, mostly from March 24. But even over here, you can see like that level was starting to be respected above and below as a pivot level. So I don't think we just cracked this in one go. But the reason I took some profit on my spot bags is simply because we hit the point of breakdown when we topped out at 4K before the whole move down. So I took some there, and I was in Ethereum Classic and a bunch of other stuff, but all TP'd. And I'm just looking to funnel those things into Sol. I've already started, as I said, but I'd like to.
So you're moving out of the ETH eco and more into the Sol eco
for now. Yep.
Interesting.
Like I said, I
was going to say, could we chart the Sol eco stuff just to like see where we sit now? Because ENA EIGEN, these coins were like doing really well. So I'm wondering if you're still like, I guess, bullish on them from a structural perspective, or whether you'd prefer to focus on Solana betas.
Look, I think a lot of people get in the mindset of they need to be in every single coin, every single eco. They play the rotation game endlessly in these conditions. It's like one day they'll see one thing pumping, and then 5 hours later there's something else is pumping in a different eco. They start to sell that, to rotate into that, and they've missed that pump, and then the thing they were in originally pumps up again. So the standard thing. when the market gets good. But what I like to do is focus quite heavily on an eco when I see the juice start to flow in there. Obviously, ETH's run a lot, and I still think this can run a hell of a lot more. Stuff like ENA has had a phenomenal run up, but you see this wick here on like the daily. This swept into a key supply zone over here on the lower timeframes. But I think at least it can cool off for now and come down here. But, I'm mostly an intraday trader, so I do hold spot stuff for swings over weeks to months. But when I start to see things coming to key levels, like with Ethereum, we're seeing divergences on RSI and AO on the 4 hour and starting to creep into the 8 hour and then the 12 hour. That to me is like, all right, I can probably take profit on this for now or just keep partials. So ETH I haven't taken full profit on. I've still got exposure. I've taken about 40% off that because I'm still thinking it can flip into the highs at some point. It just needs some time to consolidate, as you said. But what I plan to do with this stuff is rotate out of stuff that maybe I caught a late entry in or I don't have the most conviction in, and then squeeze what I can out of Sol as that stuff starts to pump, as we've seen over the last day and a bit. And then, if it starts to cool off, just track in the pair charts and I can go back to ETH. So I still sort of have that intraday trading mentality about it intra-week, but it's all just like tracking the rotations and following where the volume is. So I do think ETH will definitely carry higher. And like the Eco, I just think maybe it needs some time to cool off because it's had a phenomenal run already.
I think ETH is, I think the narrative for ETH is going to last. If you actually look at, ETH BTC chart, it's been making quite a strong reversal versus Bitcoin. And you can see here on the Bitcoin chart, Bitcoin's actually started to slow down. And I think this is because ETH is starting to steal the thunder from Bitcoin a little bit. I got asked in Mars High Club, like, what is the narrative for ETH at the moment? And I said, like, honestly, I know there's a lot of headlines about SBET and treasury companies, which are being front run. And that's certainly, one contributing factor, legislation, stablecoins, World Liberty Finance, Trump pushing Web3, like all of that is good for Ethereum. But I think primarily the main reason why ETH's run is because Bitcoin ran up a lot and ETH is next in line in terms of the rotation game. So if you feel like you've missed Bitcoin, and a lot of funds felt like they missed Bitcoin, a lot of people that were buying the Bitcoin ETF felt like they missed the Bitcoin run, the next like instinctual thing to do is like gamble on the next biggest token in crypto. And because ETH was so far away from its all-time high, it was like 50% of its all-time high or less, and Bitcoin was at all-time highs, there's just a massive like catch-up trade there. And if you actually look at the Bitcoin price now relative to 2021 all-time high, Bitcoin is almost 2x the 2021 peak, whereas Ethereum is still below its 2021 peak by like 20 to 25%. So actually, the runway for ETH, if it were to perform the same as Bitcoin in terms of just percentages this cycle, theoretically, you could see ETH at $9,000 because that's, double its 2021 level. So it's still massively underperformed Bitcoin, which is why the reason people are asking, why is it running so strongly now? It's for that exact reason. It was just so oversold, and a lot of people that were hedging short against the altcoin market because ETH was performing so badly, they were hedged short Ethereum and not hedged short alt. So then it just led to a massive squeeze. So I still think there is further catch up potentially on ETH, but what I actually want to see from a health perspective in terms of the overall macro cycle is I want to see a few mini alt seasons. I don't want to see one big huge one, and I also don't think we get that. I think what happens is, and this would also be the best thing for the market, is we see Bitcoin, Ethereum rotation like we're seeing now, altcoin rotation, then altcoins cool down and chill for a bit, and then Bitcoin has another run and breaks highs, because it's also a problem if all the money just rotates from Bitcoin to ETH right now. I mean, maybe that's what some people here want, because maybe you'll make a lot of money in the short term. I'm sure we will if that's the case. But if you want a bit of a larger window here to profit, which is always better, 4 to 6 months as opposed to this blowing off in August, September, which could be the case if Bitcoin doesn't have another run, you probably want to see that rotation also go back into Bitcoin at some point. So just something to be aware of. And then touching on the Bitcoin topic, I wanted to ask you about this CME gap, because this is something that I highlighted a couple of weeks ago, that at some point we would probably come down and fill, and we have been making lower highs on Bitcoin. So I think maybe we could come down and sweep this level. You also have the noodle on 8 hour, which isn't really a time frame I'm paying much attention to. I think daily and 4 hour have shown a little bit more efficacy. But if you look at the 4 hour, you can see we're starting to break below now and make lower highs. So what are you seeing on Bitcoin? Do you think we can actually come down and sweep this level? Because for me, that would be, in my opinion, the reset that's needed to reset the market and potentially trigger the next leg. And I would subsequently get a lot of fills here, because this is the spot zone where I would load up on Bitcoin, and we'll probably also reset the ETH BTC chart.
Yeah, 100%. That level is a lot of confidence down there. I'm actually on the ETH BTC chart. Just quickly, I'm going to touch on before I do BTC. The reason, what you were saying about it being so oversold on ETH, like you just look at the ETH BTC chart, it's ridiculous. But the reason I sort of took some profit as well and started to look at a potential rotation, if you look at the high volume node here on the VRVP for the entire chart, so it's like the biggest sticky point of the chart. It's pretty much the POC. So you can line it up on either side of the high volume node with with these levels, and you can see we're approaching that now. So I think this will definitely be a sticky point to get across. But that said, once we flip this level, I think, there's a big volume inefficiency in here to fill. I think this can just mark up incredibly fast if we can flip this level here, but I do think this will be some sort of sticky point. And this also lines up with ETH being back at the 4K level that it's, been capped by for years now. So something to keep in mind with this. And that's, partially what played into my rotation thesis. With BTC, that CME gap for sure. So I think I have it marked at...
It got front run last time a little bit, so we had that impulse back to the upside, but I feel, just gut feel is that we might come a bit lower next time.
Yeah, well, this is a chart I shared in the group yesterday. So what BTC is doing at the moment, it's why I think it is marking down and having a draw towards this pocket of confluence of POIs down here. We're basically sweeping these levels, right? And each time we have a push up, but the pushes are getting more muted as they go, right? Maybe this one does carry up. You can see it's still not getting to new highs. We're still making a low high each time we do these sweeps. Now, generally, when you see these sweeps, you want it to push up and break market structure for the next leg.
Because everyone's longing ETH instead. That's the problem I was saying before in terms of Bitcoin. Like, ETH is really stealing some attention.
Agree. I think, this key low down here, pretty much the range low that we made at 115,700. We yet to sweep that. Now, if we do sweep that, we have so much confluence down here. We have the CME gap at like 15,635. Below that, we have a daily imbalance, daily FEG with a 4-hour FEG inside it. Sweeping that low into these levels you'd expect a reaction, right? Now, if we do trade lower on TPO chart, like this thing, for anyone who doesn't know what a TPO chart is, we have this thing called a single print, which is basically just a volume inefficiency. So we have that here just a bit lower at like 113,800, give or take. So if we do puke, like quote unquote puke, as people keep talking about this flush, I think you need to start paying attention once we run this low into the CME gap and the stacked FEGs. And if we do even bleed a bit harder, maybe a quick spike down, I think that 113,800 level looks really good. You can see right now, though, what we're doing with BTC is simply just bracketing between the value area high and value area low. It's just tightly compressing between these two things. It's been quite nice to trade on low timeframes, playing rotations between the high and the low. You've been able to do it a number of times since it made this deviation over here. So it's just bracketing, it's just ranging, it's just forming value, and eventually it's going to either mark up or down quite violently, I would imagine. We just need to see which one that is. I think if it starts getting trapped down here under 115, 114K, there's potential to worry. Maybe we come down and actually test this 111K pocket of demand, but I'm not really considering that for now.
I think people are going to panic if we come down to that. Even this 114, 115K level, people are going to panic, even though that's probably that will be the reason I went more into stables, by the way, isn't because I'm bearish. It's because I don't have a huge edge today. So what I'm waiting for is that edge to be created. So it's either created through a pullback like this, so where we get a bit of a sell-off on alts and I'm able to get into strong stuff while everyone's panicking. I have liquidity to take advantage of that. Or that edge is created by the resumption of the uptrend and I'll just continue to bid momentum to the upside. But right now we're at a point where we're kind of in between. So hence why I just was Sunday night, let's just go more defensive and let's wait for the next big opportunity to present. I do feel like, just looking at stocks quickly, that we could get a little bit of a cool down in stocks because they've run up aggressively. If you look at the S&P, you can actually see this wick here on the daily if you zoom in. I don't know what you call that. Is that bearish paradise or engulfing candle, so to speak? Potentially a bit of resistance there.
Hasn't closed yet, but yeah, it could be a sweep of the highs. I imagine if you have RSI and stuff up, there's divergences printing there.
Yeah, I
think I looked at it recently.
I could potentially add them. Stochastic RSI.
Yeah, so stocks on the ceiling.
That's on the weekly, and on the daily. That's what it looks like.
Yep. So daily's got bear divs on RSI and Awesome Oscillator. On 4 hour, it's got triple bear divs on both. So yeah, the thing is though, it often just blasts through them, but this one actually does look like something. So yeah, worth paying attention to.
I'm just saying, if Bitcoin, there has to be a trigger, and I think just a really easy trigger for Bitcoin to actually come and sweep those zones we're talking about, it would just be a little bit of cool down in risk. that could potentially be headline driven, but I think it's just going to be driven by the fact things have been going up so much, a little bit of a reset, and then probably resumption to the upside. So that's kind of my opinion of where we sit in the cycle. I think there's still a lot of upside, but you can't just go up only. And this is where people are going to get trapped, taking on a crap ton of risk now after a huge week in alts, and then, you know, exposing themselves if we do get a flush to the downside. I've seen this movie a million times in 2021. So eventually, you know, with enough experience in the market, you start to play the game and see it a little bit differently.
Yeah, I think what you said hit the nail on the head as well about not having an edge. Like, a lot of people don't want to admit that they don't know, like, don't have a read on the market. But I think, like, it's something you honestly inherit by just time in the market with experience. It's really good to know when you can be lights on or lights off, as you put it. For me right now, this is just chop. So I don't really, I'm not looking to trade this. I think people trading leverage intraday in this, unless they're, I'm seeing a lot of people getting stopped out just on low timeframes, trying to time the bottom on this thing. But I think like the high timeframe levels are just so clear. That's all you really need to play. So what you said before, I think people will freak out at 115K, but I think that's like such a good opportunity, and I will, without reservation, unless there's some big news catalyst fueling it. Like, if it's just a dip on technicals, then I absolutely will be looking to accumulate on spot alts that have been strong, and just diversifying and then compounding into current positions. That said, if we get trapped under that 115, 114K level and starts to come down here, like, this is not what you want to see. And this is exactly what we discussed last week on the
and that's
stream.
your inval, right? You can long with invalidation.
Yeah, it would be a full reset of momentum coming down to this former range. We broke out of the range, had this nice little consolidation under it before popping. If we come down here, that's the complete unwind of momentum. And, I wouldn't be buying that retest. I would be looking for shorts once we close back inside the range high. So yeah, I think it's actually quite simple moving forward, just on the key levels. There's so much confluence in here just to at least 100%. Look for a reaction. And yeah, that's my plan.
I mean, Bitcoin could also just blast higher. So
yeah, that's what I was about to get to. Exactly what you said. Yeah, exactly what you said, man. Like, it's just chopping through the 4 node. Well, this just pops and starts breaking market structure. And really all that is, if I just get rid of this, if it closes above the value area high, that close is also a break in market structure here. You can draw it on the wicks, bodies, whatever. I prefer bodies because it lines up with the line chart. We get that break above and acceptance up there, then I don't think we get the dip down here and we just move up. Because BTC very famously likes to, let me get rid of this stuff for a sec. BTC loves to create all these stacked lows and just not give you a sweep.
But the reason why I think it might, sorry for cutting you off. The reason why, look, it's all balanced probabilities. If it goes to the upside and, invalidates this idea, it's invalidated. The reason why I think it's more likely than not, though, like 60-40, 65-35, is the fact that I'm seeing a lot of old Bitcoin wallets actually TPing in this zone. So it's kind of become a bit of a level where, like, really old wallets from, like OG days are actually finally selling that have never sold. There's been multiple cases of this. So it seems to be a level where they're like consensus kind of deciding, look, yeah, this is a zone where we actually want to TP. And then the other thing is, because ETH has so much momentum and strength, unless there's a reset and it goes back to Bitcoin, is there enough strength in Bitcoin to actually have that pop to the upside that you were discussing? Because ETH's stolen so much liquidity. Like, will there be a rotation back? There could be, but I feel like whenever the rotations back to Bitcoin happen, it's typically after a big flush. Like, this is what I've noticed in the market, and it can change this time. But what I've typically noticed is it'll go ETH alts, big flush, back to Bitcoin. It doesn't usually go Bitcoin, ETH, Bitcoin. Like, there's usually a flush beforehand. So that would probably coincide with a sweep of these levels as well. So that, like, those two factors for me are leaning towards it. But then, the invalidation clauses, I don't know, there's some headline, or there's some Jerome Powell resignation thing, or some rate cut news, or some data that the market likes, stocks rip higher, and then Bitcoin kind of knee jerks higher on the back of that. That's your invalidation. So just keep your eye on it.
I totally think there's a possibility where it won't sweep into these POIs and can just rip up, and we can track dominance for that. But I actually saw something interesting just before we started the stream. Did you see that SpaceX transferred, that SpaceX news today? They transferred 152 million in BTC for the first time in 3 years.
Wow.
We saw the knee-jerk reaction from the
Cool.
market there. It started to puke a bit. Obviously, no follow-through. It swept those lows and once again is bouncing. But so, yeah, like you said, those wallets are moving stuff around. And fair enough. Like we're at 120K. If you've been holding since the early days and you're up an insane amount, life-changing amount. Have you been tracking this? Dominance by open interest? Just dragged it off.
I haven't been. What does it do?
So I see this chart kicking around a bit on, like variations of this chart have been kicking around a bit on Twitter, but this is mapped for the past 2 years. So you can see this is basically dominance by open interest. So you've got BC, ETH, and others, which is your altcoins, obviously. You can see the inflection point. Every time the altcoins have got up to the same level as BTC in terms of open interest, we've had a market-wide reset shortly after. Now we're approaching that zone, quite soon, if not already there. Yeah, a little bit to go. So something to pay attention to, because this is over the past 2 years. It's only 2 sample size so far, but it has actually, I guess you could call that 3 with this one here. So something to pay attention to. And yeah, just another reason that I'm just, not full risk on. Like I've got quite a bit of spot portfolio now, but I'm still just saving a bunch of dry powder to add lower if we get that flush.
There's a reason I've been de-risking. It's not, once again, it's not because I'm like inherently bearish. I'm bullish over a multi-month time frame. It's just we've run up a lot. Like it's that simple. We've run up a lot, and I just don't really want to gamble here. But moving on to the altcoin discussion, if we do see a flush, or even if things just settle a little bit and give us confluence for some entries, maybe we should go through a few setups and take a look at a few things. We could maybe start with let's recap the ETH beta super quick. Maybe MNT, because we've covered ENA and EIGEN. ENA briefly. Let's look at MNT because we spoke about it last week, and then we can move on to Sol Eco, which is where you think a bit of a rotation is going to occur. And I would agree, because ETH Eco's run really hard and Sol Eco hasn't as much. I think it still will. And then we can move on to AI to wrap things up.
It's also a bias type thing. Like each cycle, you just have your select coins, your select eco where you outperform. So you just have a sweet spot for it. So mine last cycle was Sol. Mine last year was Sol. Each time it pops, I'm just able to capitalize on that quite well, and then rotate.
And memes, bro. I think, and I think they go hand in hand. But I really think we'll discuss this later when we chart PopCat and a couple others. But I really think memes will do well, because I keep seeing the volume come back and the interest come back whenever the market pumps. So it's like, it's just, it keeps validating for me the thesis that they're not going away. Although it won't be the November pump fund season. I think, a lot of people got wrecked in the trenches, and it's probably not going to be the same. I think some of the strong memes will come back really well. I mean, we've already seen this, right? With SPX doing really, really, really well. We've seen, Useless and a couple others do really well. PopCat now starting to move. So yeah, I also think that's something to still pay attention to. Even if you hate memes.
I think memes are just like the sector for the common man. Like if you're, in crypto for a long time, they have volatility, they pop and they usually lead the rallies. So obviously people want to trade them. Traders want to trade them. People have been in for a while. And then you get non-crypto native retail that come in, and like, they don't care about the tech fundamentals of ENA or whatever. They care about, Memecoin with funny name. So it's kind of, you cover.
And it gets attention. It's more marketable. Like when Pepe runs, that starts to make Instagram pages. That starts to make TikTok. That starts to make headlines, and then it kind of creates this flywheel versus like, ENA running. I don't think the average person really responds to that. Oh, what does it do? So they're releasing a new stablecoin product where you can. What stablecoin product was a stablecoin product? Also, it generates yield. What yield? How do you like it? It's too complex, and most people are lazy, so it's too difficult to even like bother learning. Whereas you already know what Pepe is, it's a funny meme, and so you want to buy that thing when it pumps. Like it's kind of that simple.
It's much easier to sell people on something called FARTCOIN because it's just ridiculous. So that's the age we live in now. But adapt or die, I guess.
Yeah, word of mouth, bro. If you longed FARTCOIN, what's FARTCOIN? That's ridiculous. It kind of has this natural word of mouth thing.
Yeah.
That other coins don't.
Ridiculous. It has to work.
Yeah.
All right. Back to the real stuff. MNT. I don't know where it was last week when we discussed it. I haven't looked at the chart, but like
this was an amazing trade. Yeah.
It swept. It didn't sweep that high, but it swept this one. So that was the liquidity target we were aiming for. It swept that. Obviously, you expect a bit of a cool off there. Maybe it comes back and does some sort of like mid time frame reset into like a breaker here, shallow retrace. Like this has been phenomenally strong. I think, you probably don't want to see it come back to the breakout level, but you might get a shallow retrace consolidation. And then the next target is, where's my stuff going? Yeah. Next target is to fill basically this low volume node up here into this level. So that's the level I will be eyeing at 1.0157.
The reason I like trading this coin is because I feel like the downside is relatively muted. Like I feel like because of their relationship with Bybit and because of like the amount of people transacting on chain, it doesn't typically have those. I mean, it obviously could at some point, but it doesn't typically have those huge periods of downside that you have to experience with other coins. And I also like the fact it's ETH narrative aligned. So it's aligned to, the ETH beta ecosystem, which is doing really well, but it's also aligned to, I think, a much bigger thing that's quite popular this cycle. And that is like traditional like products and banking. You can see they're putting their 2.5 billion treasury into like their money app that they're doing for, real world assets and to onboard real world users. They have their, blockchain banking infrastructure that they're building. So this, like, especially with World Liberty Finance coming in, this is like the narrative this cycle. So yeah, that's why I like trading it, because it's got narrative plus TAs respecting it. We discussed this last week. Narrative plus PA is the way to go versus just like pure PA.
Yeah, I've been meditating on that one a bit and discussing it with the group. I think it was such a good conversation that you brought up, that little chat.
Yeah, it was
great. Right. EIGEN looks pretty good. Now, just going to pivot to Pengu quickly, just for a little bit of TA.
What a pivot.
Wait a sec. A bit of alpha for anyone. If you have the money noodle, my absolute favorite setup in this market is compression between a diagonal and the noodle. In bullish conditions, that compression, 8 out of 10 times, this is down to back testing. I did a lot of back testing. It resolves the upside, which is, a really good ratio. Now, I think EIGEN, you can see this, the compression, it finally popped, gave absolutely no pullback. So you kind of got a long into resistance, which is like my favorite thing to do in these conditions. But with EIGEN, it's potentially doing the same thing on the daily chart. So this is a, very clean pivot level we have here, this resistance. You can see the rejection here. We have had 5 attempts at closing above it and have failed on the daily. So obviously a strong line in the sand. I think potentially we get the noodle coming up and this brackets between compressors. And I think it eventually will give you some pop that just, doesn't give you any sort of pullbacks. And once you go to a higher time frame, there's like, inefficiencies to fill there. So,
there's also narrative on this. And the narrative is that apart from being an ETH beta, that SBET is going to use EIGEN for their ETH staking as their staking partner. So that's kind of the fundamental narrative behind it.
Yep. So yeah, I think worth having. If you're trading this, like just simply look for that compression between the two. And if you're just looking to like not manage it that much, you could just set an alert on this for a close above it on something like the daily. Maybe chase price. And we went over quite simply, just looking for a pullback into this level. I think there's quite a bit of support there. We have the noodle catch up. We have the 200 EMA catch up on the daily. It's pretty clean breakout level, actually not that far from it. This wick into this level, says potentially we could have a sell-off down into it. It's also the start of the high volume node here. You can feel this little inefficiency here, and this is where the sort of high volume nodes start. So definitely a level we'll be looking at like 0.458, give or take. So that is beta covered. Did you want to do PopCat and Mew?
Sorry, my mic was off. Yeah, so let's look at some of the Sol stuff. These are some of the biggest memes on Sol. And I think, as I said before, meme plus Sol rotation is I think a good narrative. I think you can also play Radium. We probably won't have time to type them today, but Radium, Jupiter, like the top Sol eco plays are definitely things I'd look at trading if that Sol ETH chart continues to run. But the memes are where my personal preference is in terms of capturing that upside.
So my agenda for accumulation has been memes, then Sol DeFi, and then Sol AI agents. That's kind of what I've been looking to build.
Pump fun? Or not pump fun?
Oh man, that chart got murdered.
Just down only.
Yeah,
I mean, there's not really anything you can do on pump because it's just like in a downtrend. So you can't really do anything until it reclaims.
Almost removed it from my watch list today. That's how dire it looks. you can see it's just such a simple pattern. It's just basically the range low deviation flipped, right? This looks like a really bullish chart.
That looks bullish.
Exactly. So make sure in this market, guys,
bullish.
hit Alt-I for invert, or you can just go to the scale on the right. You can go invert scale.
It actually helps with bias a lot because it stops you thinking of the chart in terms of like knife catching.
Yeah, it stops you relying on your own stupid monkey brain, you know? The data's there. That looks phenomenally bullish, therefore it's not something you want to long. Like for me right now, I don't even know where I'd buy this, but you know.
Actually, you're shorting pump, right? That's the meta.
Exactly.
Like,
yeah.
But anyway, back to PopCat maybe, because people won't get any alpha on that chart.
Yeah. Well, they got alpha not to touch it, I guess. All right, PopCat. I'm bullish in this one. Was accumulating spot before the breakout level just because of how I thought that Sol ETH chart was going to rotate, and just I saw the divergences form. This looks really good. And once again, just looking for that sort of squeeze between the two. I don't really care if it comes back under the level for now. Just want to see it compress between the daily noodle and this level and just hold above. We look at things like Bonk and that have pumped quite a bit. I'm not saying PopCat's got the same narrative or meta or whatever, but I just think if Sol really has a run structurally and technically, some of these charts just look amazing. PopCat's been one of the favorites so far. I think WIF looks really phenomenal too. It's a very similar structure. And that's the thing right now with my, idea to get into the Sol Eco is structurally the charts, like the technicals, they just all look brilliant. They all look like something I'd like to trade, and potentially we have the narrative catalyst with that Sol ETH rotation. That's exactly why I started piling into them. But
so narrative-wise, there's one that I prefer to PopCat that looks similar, and it's Mu. The reason for this is what we were discussing before, like narrative plus PA. And I think the PA looks similar, but I think narrative-wise, it's a bit stronger because they have their television series launching very soon. I'll see if I can pull it up while you get the chart up, because I like the fact that they've really built their own brand IP, unlike some of these other memes. Like you can see here, they're actually working really hard on like fleshing out this ecosystem. So like these animations are really impressive, and I think just having like a team that continues to cook and continues to like push things forward versus a lot of these other memes where like I haven't heard much from WIF, like I haven't heard much from these teams. So that's why I have a slight bias. I still think PopCat's gonna do well, especially if Solana runs, but I have a slight bias to things that are still like really pushing, especially in like the Asian community. They have a really, really big presence with their branding. They're like kind of like Hello Kitty of crypto, if you want to really simplify things. Like they've actually got that IP. So yeah, that's why fundamentally I'm skewing towards this, but interesting to see what you see on the chart as well.
That counts for a lot. Like remember the Asian plush toy the other week, we were discussing Labubu. When that chart got dropped on chain, that thing went bananas. It's just multiples and multiples. Mu basically, I just think if it starts to accept above this level, it can mark up quite quickly. Like this is the point of control for, well, it's not quite, but it's pretty much the other point of control for the whole chart. You can see it's like a very clean SR level. Now we're testing into that now, maybe showing divergence in the low time frame. Like this is very extended. You can see the stochastics just on the ceiling. Doesn't mean anything in isolation, but we are seeing H12 divergences on RSI. We're seeing 4-hour divergences on AO and also RSI. So potentially a bit of a cool off, but I don't think it really matters. Maybe get a retest back into the 200 EMA, maybe into the noodle as it catches up. Potential for it just to consolidate here as the noodle catches up, maybe a wick into it. But I just think all you really need to do is just watch this level here at 0.425. Sorry, 0.00425. Yeah, acceptance above that, I think we can mark up quite quickly. There's not much resistance, right? There's pretty much this structure here. Potentially, you can even just draw that to basically these 2 points, which is still from this zone, if it breaks out, a good 40% up to the top one. So I think Mu is good. I will keep it in the watch list for now.
Actually, on the 12th of May, I was just going back to look at this. This is when I was making my first. I was trading this on leverage, but also adding spot, which I still hold now, by the way, because I still think there's upside. But you could see here, got in at like 0.0028. I shared it on the AMA, and then the next day in the coin updates, banger setup. And I don't know what's it at now. I think this would be like a 2 or a 3x. Yeah, 2x. Yeah, it's very small to see the numbers, but 4.2. So yeah, 2x, almost a 2x since that post.
Good
wait,
call.
no, 0.004, 0.0028. Yeah, about a 2x. So pretty happy with that, with the entries there. But I think now is actually a very important period as well, as you said, because if it can start consolidating above here, then it can mark up. And yeah, I'm still, obviously you should TP a little bit if you actually followed my first call, because you're up a lot. But I think, you know, those that want to play it for this next period also have a potential setup here as well. So yeah.
And what I said about upside resistance, like if the market really starts to get silly and cook, like these levels don't mean anything. It'll just blast through those, no problem. But, you know, just marking everything level to level for at least people watching if they want TP levels, if stuff does start to move up if they're following from this stream. But yeah, it's all contextual, right? As we discussed last week. We've got about 5 minutes.
Should we wrap up on AI just because I don't want to make this too long and scare people off?
Yeah. So Cookie, something I'm in currently. Once again, just purely down to technicals. Obviously, Solana, Eco, and then we're also looking for just at the structural the structure, for the charts. So my dog's just come in distracting me.
Basically, like the narrative behind this before you get into the chart is, it's like if you think AI agents are going to come back, and I know this is something that you know you've been charting a lot of the agents, they're starting to wake up a little bit, because Cookie is like the de facto, I guess, alongside KAITO, but it's a lower market cap place to actually get data on agents, trading agents, tracking agents. The theory is there should be a lot of demand for the Cookie token, because if AI agents wake up, this is like the most reflexive token to get exposure to that narrative. So what I really like in this market are reflexive tokens. This is I actually have a short coming out on YouTube very soon about this. Basically, tokens that have a positive flywheel to the upside. So, you know, memes are reflexive because as the community like comments more, interacts more, price goes up, drives more attention, positive flywheel, more community members on board, you know, and then it goes from there. Like ENA, that has a positive flywheel because they have better APRs, so more ENA is staked when funding rates are high, which they are in bull runs. So in a bull run, and also due to the fact it's an ETH beta, ENA should outperform the market. So Cookie's another one that, relevant to AI, it has a reflexive flywheel. Like if AI kicks off, this should be a token that outperforms some of the other ones, because they've got the best analytics pretty much in the game for AI, which you're going to need if you're trading AI. So I think any token that, and obviously they have also their campaigns, so projects are required to, you know, buy, stake a certain amount of Cookie to actually run like a Yaps, or they call it Snaps campaign, which basically, you know, enables them to get more mind share. So all these sort of tokens that are reflexive, the reason they're on my charts is for that reason. You know, I think you want to be focused on the tokens that pump harder basically during bull runs, because you'll just do a lot better from a risk reward point of view than getting into stuff that doesn't have that element. That's a very important element to look at when it comes to tokenomics in this environment.
Agree. And just talking about how it pumps, like this thing just did such a rally when it ripped. So, you know, if you get any semblance of that again, this is, you know, the thesis enough for me to go, we're reclaiming key levels. Maybe things starts to cook and do this again. I definitely want to be on board early if this happens. But I think this was just doing the compression between the noodle and the level. Same thing, yeah. Found noodle support, 200 EMA. Generally want to get that flip of the 200 EMA and the daily and the noodle. That's sort of a risk-on signal for me. Once we start reclaiming structure, that's, you know, time to compound. But I think this looks great, especially holding this level up here. Just want to see it push up. Kind of what you're discussing before is the reason I hold virtuals as well. I just think structurally it looks good, but also similar thing. But yeah, once again, we had the deviation under, reclaim the noodle, reclaim the 200 EMA. I think virtuals looks really good also. And then Sahara was the last one. Got 1 minute to go.
Yeah, so Sahara is actually one of the new launches that I highlighted in my Discord, and it kind of followed this very classic new launch fractal. So I wanted you to chart it because I like when, I mean, it has very strong fundamentals. I like when strong projects launch and then start to consolidate, because then you have some sort of price data to look at getting entries. Just to kind of give people an update here, it's on Binance, so it's one of the AI projects that has a lot of big listings. And in 4 days, the fundamental catalyst is in 4 days they have their data services platform opening to the public. And I'm probably going to touch on this a bit later, but it could be a good opportunity for you guys because you can actually contribute and train the AI economy and get paid. So earn Sahara rewards for doing that. So that's going to be quite cool. Basically, their products are now starting to launch. So there could be a fundamental catalyst there to look into. But yeah, chart wise, I'd love to know what you're thinking if it aligns.
I mean, you just need one level for this. Just draw a simple box. It's obviously the bull bear pivot. Under it, you just got to, well, not a bull bear pivot. It's just, a lot of reaction on the top. We finally flipped it. I don't know what this was. Big push up and then immediate engulfing back down, but it found support. The noodle pushed up. Now we're retesting the pivot it flipped and the noodle at the same time on the 4 hour. I think the 4 hour is kind of like the best time frame to view this chart. So this looks great to me as long as it holds these 2 points. You've got dynamic and static resistance. Always that inflection is the best place to long in trending markets for me. If we hold that, I see no reason this can't push up. And once again, volume inefficiency, kind of look for the next high volume node, which lines up with this supply over here. So around 0.1, round psychological level, pretty easy play between here and there.
Yeah. Cool. And then I think the last one that I wanted to give the audience an update on because we touched on it last week was PIN. This actually ran up really aggressively. It didn't quite get the secondary entry I wanted, so I wanted to fill of that gap, which we didn't get back to. It's just been very, very strong. So interested to get your thoughts here. And from a fundamental perspective, because obviously there's reasons why this is pumping as well. One, it was just massively oversold, so it doesn't take much to push price. But two, one of the fundamental reasons is they recently launched their USDC marketplace. This is actually quite cool looking into this. If you're into Bitcoin mining or just into passive income, you can actually buy shares, so they call them fractions of miners, which give you the APR based on the energy and mining cost and hardware cost. So this is quite cool. So you can put in, let's say, $45 to acquire a fraction of the Antminer S21, which is one of the most powerful Bitcoin miners, and you can earn 56% a year based on that. So it's kind of interesting now we're getting these marketplaces. This is like true DeepIn, where anyone can kind of upload their GPUs and you can actually fractionalize this and allow people to invest in Bitcoin mining, because obviously who wants to run Bitcoin mining, right? It's a pain in the ass. But if you want exposure to lower cost, basically you can accumulate Bitcoin at a lower cost, because if you buy one Bitcoin off the market, you're paying the price that it's valued at now based on the fact that the block's already been mined. Whereas if you mine Bitcoin at an energy efficient rate, theoretically you're getting unders per Bitcoin. But then obviously there are some risks as well. It's not free money. There's smart contract risk. There's fractionalization risk. You're not, since you don't own it, you don't have sovereignty over the hardware. You got to look into whether they could just shut it down or what the repercussions are there. So always be super critical when it comes to staking. But I think that's an interesting concept that has the potential to take off, because it's kind of intersecting on the Bitcoin narrative, which is really strong, and also the RWA narrative, which has really been a theme of this cycle and probably will continue to be with World Liberty Finance app launching very, very soon.
Yeah, I saw Nacho longing that the other day as well, based on some narrative. Generally a good sign. The chart looks great. Honestly, it's still just stuck in this range, but I think you've got this big convergence here of the 12 hour. Yeah, that's why. The 12 hour 200 EMA, the 12 hour noodle coming up into the POC. So this high volume node here, you can see. Any sort of retest back into this area, I think is actually a good place to load up to at least attack the highs. But if we flip the highs, I think this thing can mark up quite quickly due to its market cap, and also just, based on the sheer volume inefficiency, we can mark up through. So at least up into 1.8, give or take, if we start to really, break above this level. But yeah, I think in terms of longs, this is a nice pocket down here to target around 0.75, 0.76.
And that's the exact thing, right? Pullbacks in this market are your best friend. So a lot of these tokens that we're mentioning, some actually have decent setups now, but some of them you just want to be patient, because you probably will get an entry if things just continue to chill for a little bit, especially things that have run up aggressively. They might cool off, give you an opportunity to enter, and then you can target the next high. On this one specifically, I think if I zoom in here, it's $1.10, $1.05, and pullback could take us to 0.76. So there's 30% just in that move, let alone if it can actually squeeze higher. I noticed there's potential inefficiencies above that level as well. So above $1, it could squeeze pretty quickly to 150, 160. And it doesn't take much in the right market. Like this token went from, I remember first calling it in Discord at $4, 40 cents, and having it at $4 a couple of weeks later. So like that's a real alt season. And that's actually a good example of like, a lot of people are talking about alt season now. Yes, it's like the makings of it. If you want to look at the, actual definition of alt season, if it's like 75% of tokens outperforming Bitcoin, we're getting there, right? I think we're at 68%. But now's not even like the crazy part, because I remember back in November, tokens like this were 10x, literally 10x. And we're not seeing that now. All we're seeing now is like the early moves of like things repricing 40, 50%. But we aren't seeing 10x's across the board. You'll know it's real alt season, like real mania, when that starts to happen. And I think that's going to be slightly later in the year. So this, sorry, I went on mute. This is in some ways the appetizer, in my opinion, before something a bit bigger. So right now you're still just trying to conservatively position, and then later you're probably maximizing that positioning if you're patient. That's the way I'm seeing the cycle.
I think the definition of alt season for me is when I'm in something and it's up 500%, and then I'm upset about that because I didn't get in the thing that's up 2,500%. So good first world problems to have.
Yeah. But yeah. What anything else before we head off? Or
I mean, we're at 50 minutes now, probably scaring people, but
long.
No, I'm still just watching. I'm playing it relatively cool. So I'm just in positions I want to be in, like SPX, virtual, Pepe, Bonk, and I'm just looking to compound those on dips. I just want to build like 5 or 6 really core bags, like quite heavily. And then I'm just intraday trading based on, whatever meta is or narrative is showing interest for the day. So stuff like,
I saw in the Discord you had goat cooking earlier.
Yeah, I had goat. Yeah, I closed that out because I didn't like that sweep on BTC. We had a sweep and we started to roll over immediately. So I started to just
That's
TP
a massive trade on SPX.
Yeah, that one's still going. I'm only 50% out of that one. I'm holding spot too. So
That's crazy.
I'm happy with that. Yeah.
That's crazy. Make sure you guys join the Discord if you want live analysis from Paradise, myself, the latest alpha, the earliest news. Yeah, dude has been cooking. He's been absolutely trading his ass off. He's posting like every hour. So and 38% on a 5x is actually very good. It's different, to higher leverage. So 38% on ADA, 300% on Uni, 46% on SPX, 15 on ADA, 12 on Doge. This is all within like 24 hours. You can actually go through the history of the channel. I mean, I'm even happy to make all of this transparent. You guys can pause the video and see like the track record is insane at the moment. Obviously, it's a good market. So this favors certain styles of trading. But if this market's going to continue, then we can continue to just print on these, sort of setups. So yeah,
he set that channel up because he's a really good volatility trader, and once the volatility is there, it's good. So you're covered on all bases. You got high time frame swing traders, you got low time frame momentum traders, you got volatility. He's on the 5-minute tick charts trading, so it's like something for everyone.
We actually have a new trader. Obviously, we already have Morin, who's swing trading, Doc, who's swing trading, Paradise low time frame, Fabian, who's altcoin alpha low cap stuff. I probably shouldn't flash that because he posts a lot of small caps. We'll save them for the group. I post my risky trades. I've actually had a couple of very good plays recently. And then we also, obviously, we have Paradise. I think I said that. And then we have a new trader joining, who's also going to be, who's been kind of playing their trade through the group. One thing we've made a cognizant effort to do is give people a chance that do really well in the group. So we have one more of a low time frame hybrid trader also posting some setups. So we have a lot, probably too much. The number one negative feedback I get about the group, ironically, is there's too much alpha. That makes it sometimes hard for people to kind of dissect it all, just because there's so much. So one thing we're actually having to do is focus more on our reports, updates, etc., because we have too much alpha, which is ultimately a good thing. You want too much alpha rather than not enough. But the reason we've set it up this way with different types of stars is so you can pick what you like. Some people might really align with Paradise and they just hang out in his channels and just trade based on his system and learn his system. Some might only like fundamental stuff and spot trading, and they might follow me and Fabian. You know, some people might like higher time frame stuff or like to, you know, use Confluence for that to get a bearing on their short-term entries, and they'll follow Doc or Morin for that. So we've put pretty much everything in place for you to be able to pick and choose what you like. So that's what I like about it the most, even though there's too much alpha.
Then you got the bots too. It's effectively another trader.
Yeah. So
yeah. Other than that, nothing more from me. I think let's come back to stream next week and see how well this Sol call did.
Well, actually, I think we're doing Thursdays with you now
true.
on more of a solo show. So I'll still be there, but it'll be shorter because when we come together, it ends up being ridiculous because I yap as well. But we'll do a shorter one on Thursdays where you'll mostly go through trade updates, ideas. I can contribute fundamentals if I think of something, but I'll mostly let you lead them. And then, so that'll be great for people that are just focused on trading. Want to bring more of that sort of content to the channel.
Yeah, I'll also do a bunch of trading concepts and education because that's my bread and butter. I think a lot of people could learn from that and get an insight into what we supply in the group.
100%. Cool, bro. All right. Thanks for joining me. We'll catch people on Thursday.
Yeah.
Peace.